Good morning. Good morning. I am Marilyn Martin, president of Encore Learning. It's great to join our members this Arctic morning and a special and warm welcome to 10 new and recently retired federal members. Today, we will preview Encore Learning's spring offerings, our 47th semester presenting courses. Encore Learning continues to provide our members the opportunity to explore, learn, and connect with others. Especially now in our complicated era of new and ever-changing issues and challenges, we hope some of our classes might provide insight and help in navigating today's complex issues. I'm excited about our offerings for this spring. We have 42 courses, 32 of which are new. Many, 24, will be in person. Another 13 classes will be virtual, and 5 others hybrid, combining both online and in-person participation. There are even a few outdoor classes. Whatever your preference, in-person, virtual, or hybrid, there are many offerings to choose from. We will once again be recording several courses, 16 are planned so far, to be available for class members to view later should their schedules conflict with attending all of the classes. Online registration will begin Monday, February 2nd at 10 a.m. How to do it? Very easy. At that time, all courses in the online catalog go live, ready for sign up. Classes that you choose, click on, will be displayed with a link that says register now. Click that link for any class or classes for which you want to register, and the website will guide you through the rest of the registration process. Our staff is always available to help should you need it. Just send an email to info@encorelearning.net and someone will be there to help you. We suggest you plan to sign up early. Registration will remain open throughout the semester, but popular classes can fill up quickly. If the system should inform you that your class is already full, we suggest you opt to be put on the waiting list. No charges are incurred from being on the wait list. Rather, as course capacities change, space can open and you will be notified. You might also get a message that a course you've chosen has low enrollment. All of our courses require a minimum of 10 students, so perhaps you can try to recruit some friends to sign up to ensure the class will be offered. While registration opens on February 2nd, many courses may have availability all the way up until their scheduled course date. We're about to launch our previews where you will hear instructors give a brief overview of the course that they're going to be presenting, helping us determine which of our courses we want to be sure to attend. We'll start momentarily, but first, let me do a quick shout out to the many teams that make our classes possible. Committee chairs and volunteers from academic programs, publications, membership, class aides, volunteers, and information technology. Without the great work of these volunteers, we would not have these courses at all. While all of our volunteers make it happen, let me also name the backbone of our program, the members of the Academic Programs Committee. Without these folks who find topics and structures and develop and work to create courses, we would not be having a spring preview or classes at all. So a big thank you to Deb Spiro and Susan Bornstein, APC's co-chairs, and APC's members. So many to thank, but even a few more. Thanks to those who serve as class aides and to our excellent instructors who volunteer both their time and expertise. We are so lucky to have this cadre of helpers and professionals. And for anyone who might want to volunteer as a class aide, if you've never done it before, it's not too late. When you register for a class, you will be asked perhaps whether you'd like to be a class aide. I hope you'll consider doing so. Our instructors very much appreciate the support that class aides provide, and it's also a chance for you as an individual to engage with the instructor about a subject which you're obviously interested. I would also be remiss if I did not also thank our outstanding staff, especially Donna, who produced the videos you're about to see, and Carrie, who manages the whole course process. And I cannot forget Patty, who kindly responds to all of your questions and solves problems for us. And of course, Laura, who keeps things running. Thanks for your superb job. Our preview this morning will commence momentarily. I keep saying that, but it's going to happen shortly. And we'll take a break midway around 10:45 for 10 minutes. The final videos should end at about 10 minutes to 12, and we'll entertain any questions at that time. One last note, should you not be able to tune in for the entire presentation, these preview videos will be available on our YouTube channel tomorrow morning. If you missed one, would like to review again, or want to share a course idea with a friend, you can do that on YouTube. These presentations will also be accessible through the online catalog description of courses. Just find the course at the Encore Learning website, click on the course presentation, and there you can view the instructor's summary. Now enough commentary, on with the preview. Hosting our preview program are the two fabulous leaders of our academic program committee, Susan Bornstein and Deb Spiro. Susan and Deb, let's go.
Thank you, Marilyn, and welcome to everyone. Susan and I are just delighted to have an opportunity to share our course preview with you. We have some amazing classes, and I think you're going to love to hear from the instructors themselves and then make the tough decision, which classes can I sign up for? So I'm going to turn it over to Susan to kick this off with the first section.
Thanks, Deb, and thank you everyone for joining us this morning. Before we kick off, I just wanted to say again that the recording is available to anybody enrolled in the course. So if you have lots of travel or other things going on and you're going to miss a session, you can take the course on your own. We only record courses when instructors agree to have them recorded. And as mentioned, they'll be available until July 31st. For the videos we're about to hear, we'll first hear from instructors for courses for arts, theater, music, and then health and wellness. This is a super interesting category. Among other offerings, we have new courses in theater, which many members have asked for, and a very popular instructor giving a course on Motown, which will be incredibly energizing. We have a new instructor teaching an interactive course on Tao, Zen, creativity, and East Asia's classical arts, and a return instructor teaching two courses, improv for beginners and advanced improv for those who took the intro course last semester. Enjoy these opportunities to nourish your artistic side. We also have one wellness offering from a veteran instructor.
Hello, my name is Dee Oland, and I've been teaching with Encore Learning for over 15 years. I teach the Theater Appreciation course, sometimes known as the Educated Audience, and I'm really excited to be teaching it again in the spring of 2026. The way the course works is I choose 3 plays, we read the scripts, talk about them as literature, and then everyone goes to see the shows on their own, and then we discuss them as productions. We'll talk about vocabulary, we'll talk about what happens backstage. Basically, we follow where any place the students want to go with the discussion. I bring to the class a PhD in theater studies and years of working in the theater industry, including some experience right here in DC professional theater. The shows we're going to watch this year are As You Like It at the Folger, a show at the Olney Theater, a new play, and Hamnet, not Hamlet, Hamnet at Shakespeare Theater, which is a stage adaptation of the novel, which has also been made into a movie recently. We'll just have a chance to discuss all of those things. So hope you can join us.
So, do you like to laugh? Do you like to connect with other people? Do you like celebrating joy? If you answered yes to those questions, then you will love the class Never Too Old to Play. We get together, we play improv games, we have improv exercises, we support each other, and it may sound scary, but it is not, because we create a supportive, fun atmosphere where mistakes are celebrated and no experience necessary. You don't even have to be funny. Just come, be yourself, and you will have the time of your life. We did this last semester, and it was a huge success. And so if you're looking for something different, something playful, something that maybe feels a little bit scary outside your comfort zone, then Never Too Old to Play is the class for you. So hopefully I will see you there.
Hello, Encore Learning. It's Mike Agron, and thank you for inviting me back to share my third seminar series with you. This spring, it's called The Magic of Motown. Just listen. You hear those sounds? You know it's a Motown sound. But it's more than just the music. It's about the history. It's about the legacy. And we're going to meet the leadership of Berry Gordy and his team and the other vibrant personalities that shaped Motown during the golden era, from the late 1950s to the early 1970s. We're going to understand and get behind how the signature sound was able to blend pop and R&B and soul, and how its legendary house band, the Funk Brothers, created that consistent sound. It's also about people and a culture that transcended boundaries, and it influenced countless other genres. We're going to leave not only snapping our fingers, bring your dancing shoes, because I'm sure you're going to want to get up and dance, but we're going to understand why Motown's legacy still resonates across the globe. Can't wait to share this with you. I'll see you this spring. This is Mike Agron saying bye for now.
Hello, this is Ilsa Bush. I'm going to be teaching the course, The Origins and Development of Dance in the American Musical Theater during Encore Spring semester. And we'll start off this course by defining musical theater itself and looking at its origins and development in this country, going back to some of the very earliest productions in 1735 and 1866. We will examine how European musical theater productions brought to this country by touring companies or by immigrants who had created or performed musical theater in their home countries and brought their skills with them. So their entertainment forms included what was called the London Music Hall style, and that is very similar to vaudeville. It included music, dance, comic skits, some acrobatics. It was very entertaining and kind of loose. But even more influential were the operettas that came from Europe to this country. And Gilbert and Sullivan were among the most popular of those. As I say, we'll spend a good amount of time talking about this influence of the African Americans because of their development of tap dancing and the way that they brought with them from Africa the rhythms and the polyrhythmic work that they did when they danced and their dance movements. So that was very influential in developing the style of dance in musical theaters, and it was very much related to the development of jazz. We will get to the dance part because we'll switch our focus to the dance when we get to talking about the productions in Hollywood. Many Hollywood movies were developed in the 1930s that were based on or were adaptations of Broadway musical theater. So we'll see those. We'll see other ones that were just created for Hollywood films, and we'll be able to really focus on what's happening with the dance styles and the choreography itself. And we will see choreography of George Balanchine, Agnes DeMille, both from the ballet theater, and Jack Cole, Michael Kidd, Bob Fosse, Fred Astaire, Gene Kelly, people you know and probably love, Michael Bennett, Katherine Dunham, and many others. I look forward to seeing you in the spring.
Hi, I'm Dawn Lee. Welcome to Tao, Zen, and Creativity. Millions of people around the world practice Tai Chi. We often talk about its health benefits, better balance, stronger immune system, and longevity. In this course, we ask something deeper. Why does Tai Chi work? When we do Tai Chi, we're not just exercising the body. We're entering a special way of being in the world. We let vital energy called Qi flow through us and restore balance within the continuous field of heaven, earth, and human that we are born into. In other words, we harmonize body, mind, and spirit. This way of life has shaped traditional Chinese arts, including poetry, painting, calligraphy, and music. Over centuries, it also influenced the traditional arts of Japan and Korea. This is a 4-week class that we learn by doing, or rather, playing. In week 1, we begin with the heart of Tao and Zen. We feel the ideas of flow and stillness, yin and yang, through easy Tai Chi movements. In week 2, we explore Qi, the vital energy, and express it through calligraphy with a brush or just our arm. We discover how each brush stroke reflects breath and intention. In week 3, we turn to nature poetry and painting. We appreciate the quiet beauty and write a short poem together. In week 4, we bring everything together, philosophy, art, and movement, and discover how these traditions support our inspired living today. This is going to be an exciting course. It's exciting for me as well. I could share these practices I grew up with you, and I've taught for several years in this experiential way. Come and join us and play with me.
Never too old to play some more. So we had a great semester of Never Too Old to Play, and we're going to keep the ball rolling. Never Too Old to Play Some More is a class for students that have taken Never Too Old to Play, or have some improv experience, or have some theater experience. And the class is going to involve improv games, improv activities, with the goal of ending with a performance. So we're going to be playing some games that often translate well to the stage. And let me tell you something, it is really, really exciting. A lot of the folks that took Never Too Old to Play didn't envision themselves as improvisers, and now they do. And maybe you don't envision yourself as a comedic performer, but trust me, when you get up there and you do the show and you do it with your classmates and you're supporting each other and you've got your friends and your family and the audience supporting you, it is an electric moment. And we want to create that together. So Never Too Old to Play Some More. It's all the fun of Never Too Old to Play with that extra special cherry on top.
I'm Dwight Rogers, and I'm offering a spring semester course titled Caregiving for Dementia. Dementia comes in many forms and presents itself in many ways as changes affect the brain. While Alzheimer's, Lewy body disease, and Parkinson's disease are probably the best known causes of dementia, there are other causes for which medical science is only beginning to develop effective treatments. And caregivers face challenges supporting loved ones with dementia regardless of the medical diagnosis or treatment. This course is designed for caregivers who are supporting someone who is facing the unexpected and often daunting challenges and who are faced with their own unexpected and daunting responsibilities, often without any real support or training. Caregiving can be stressful, and it can be lonely. I've been a caregiver for my wife of 58 years, who has Parkinson's disease dementia, and which for her has developed both slowly and inexorably. During 2025, I participated in a study for caregivers conducted by the Rush Medical Center in Chicago. The study provided me with a great deal of vetted material on caregiving. The course, which is limited to 20, is organized around a publication from the Parkinson's Foundation titled Care Partner Guide, a practical resource for Parkinson's care partners. The guide is useful to anyone working with developing dementia and is designed to promote caregiver wellness through 5 keys. Seek support and accept help. Take care of yourself. Collaborate in care. Nourish your relationships. And plan ahead and adapt to change. I recommend that you acquire your own copy of this free guide from parkinsons.org/library. The 6-week course begins on Monday, March 2nd at 10 o'clock. Caregivers often struggle to leave home, so this course is virtual only. I look forward to both teaching and learning over the 6 weeks of the course. Thank you.
Okay, we're ready to start the history segment, and we have a lot of history buffs in our membership, so we have put together 10 great classes for you and other people who are interested. You'll see that they cover a huge array of topics, from right here in Arlington to Spain to the Civil War and the Cold War, plus much more. You will see some familiar faces from among our returning instructors, and also some new instructors joining Encore Learning for the first time. So now let's get started.
In 1890, there were more Jews in Spain than all the rest of Europe combined, and they had reached levels of influence, wealth, and cultural sophistication that were unheard anywhere else in Europe. This world was shattered in 1391. A rogue priest named Fernando Martinez, against the wishes of both the crowns and the church, incited mobs through the 2 Spanish kingdoms of Castile and Aragon with the slogan, "Convert or die." And motivated as much by greed as by religious fanaticism, they invaded all the major Jewish communities of the 2 kingdoms. It resulted in the forcible conversion of tens of thousands of Jews, who were then, once the riots subsided, were forced to remain Christians. 100 years later, because of suspicion that they were still secretly practicing Judaism, the King Ferdinand of Spain created a new institution, as you can see by my T-shirt, the Spanish Inquisition. Nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition. And the Inquisition had the initial mission solely to determine whether these conversos, these new Christians, were secretly practicing Judaism, which would be considered heresy, punishable by burning at the stake. Subsequently, the Inquisition then pushed for the expulsion of the Jews, arguing that the Jews were undermining the faith of the remaining Christians. And in 1492, King Ferdinand signed a decree kicking all the Jews out of Spain, the expulsion decree. They left and they spread all over the world. 20% of modern Jews are today descended from Spain. Some of them even went to the New World in the early 1600s. 1620, the Dutch used them to settle in Brazil, and the city of Recife became a third to half Jewish with 2 synagogues in 1620. That's the end of the story. My class will tell the whole story, starting with the Romans, the Visigoths, the Muslim invasion of Spain, the rise and fall of the Muslim Caliphate, the rise of the new Christian nations, and the reconquest of Spain. I'd also tell the story of Jewish cultural achievements, of a great school of poetry from the 10th century, Jewish philosophers, including Maimonides, the Jewish travel journal of Benjamin of Tudela, who was known as the Jewish Marco Polo, and a radically new idea of Jewish religion, of Jewish mysticism, known as the Kabbalah, exemplified by the Zohar, or the Book of Splendor, by Moses de Leon. My class is going to be based on my book, Exiles in Sepharad, The Jewish Millennium in Spain, published by the Jewish Publication Society and the University of Nebraska Press. I've given book talks at Smithsonian Associates, Temple Emmanuel in New York City, Voice of America, and many other local venues. And I've taught this class through here at Encore Learning and Oli at George Mason and American University. I've taught it about a dozen times, but I'm looking forward to teaching it again, and I hope to see you in my class soon. Thanks.
Good morning. The course is Crusades, Wars among Christians and Muslims. Stories about the Crusades often start with Pope Urban II at Clermont, France in 1095 AD, calling on all of Europe to march off to reclaim Jerusalem for Christianity. But those accounts ignore the spread of Islam into Christian, Jewish, Zoroastrian, Hindu, and other pagan areas starting in the 7th century. Byzantine emperors and patriarchs had been petitioning popes and Western monarchs for years for help in warding off this new Islamic threat from the East. Apparently, to everyone's surprise, Islam had been metastasizing at a devastating rate, infecting and quickly overtaking polities north, south, east, and west of its origin along the incense route in the Arabian Peninsula. Only a century after the death of Islam's founder, Rasul, that is, messenger, Muhammad, in 632, an Islamic army was fighting against Charles Martel at Tours in France, well north of the Pyrenees Mountains. At the same time, Islamic armies were also penetrating the Indus River Valley in India, more than 5,000 miles to the east. And the West didn't respond to Byzantine pleas for help until 1095 AD. In that year, an estimated 30,000 participants, crusaders, answered the call of Pope Urban at the Council of Clermont for the First Crusade, and a much larger but not accurately known number followed in the next 173 years through academically counted major Middle Eastern crusades and several European and Baltic side shows. Come and take the course, find out what happened in all of these different places, and we'll see how it all goes and how it all went. We are still declaring crusades today, but that's a whole different story. Hope to see you in the spring.
Good morning. My name is Nick Reynolds, and I am somebody who has been reading about, studying, and writing about the Spanish Civil War for many years. I remember my first book that I read on the Spanish Civil War, I would have read in the 1960s. So this course looks at three of the most powerful authors who have written on the Spanish Civil War, and they are Hemingway, Orwell, and Arthur Koestler. And it's just, to me, it's an amazing thing that the Spanish Civil War had such a powerful effect on literature in English. So this is what we're going to explore in the course. If you want to, I can add a little bit more here on why, my most recent exposure to the Spanish Civil War, and that's when I did this book on Hemingway, Writer, Sailor, Soldier, Spy, which talks about his particular political development. So that's part and parcel of this whole here, Hemingway being involved in this great event a precursor to World War II, and then coming home and writing a tremendous bestseller, For Whom the Bell Tolls.
Hello, I'm David Segrist. I earned my PhD in biodefense from George Mason University. My dissertation focused on statistical anomaly detection for early warnings of outbreaks of disease. I have taught both non-credit and graduate classes at George Mason and Georgetown universities. I recently retired from the MITRE Corporation, where I spent 16 years working mainly on counterterrorism and counterproliferation issues. In this course, I plan to examine different aspects of the intelligence enterprise using examples from the Cold War. I aim to discuss various individuals involved and their activities instead of focusing on formal presentations about the intelligence community. Topics include the following. In the first session, I plan to discuss strategy. Noted Chinese strategist Sun Tzu argued that the highest form of strategy is to win without fighting. Good work if you can get it, by turning the enemy's will to your own, including through robust intelligence activities. Sun Tzu's approach is increasingly important in the nuclear age, where direct superpower conflict would be catastrophic. In the second session, we begin with the start of the Cold War, when Stalin secretly recruited key US and UK officials. They provided valuable intelligence to the Kremlin, but also directly influenced Western allies' policies to benefit the Soviets. In the third session, we explore the nuclear espionage that helped the Soviets develop the atomic bomb more quickly, along with subsequent CIA counterintelligence efforts. A series of Soviet intelligence officers defected over time. However, what they had to say often conflicted with one another. Who were trustworthy defectors and who aimed to deceive? Our fourth session highlights early intelligence failures, followed by U.S. technological advances that offered a clearer picture of Soviet activities. This helped support arms control agreements. In the fifth session, we will review the analysis and estimates function and we'll also highlight by highlighting a controversial incident where two groups of top analysts reached completely different conclusions about the same key data. In the sixth session, we will examine so-called active measures, including disinformation campaigns, dirty tricks, and others. The Soviets used active measures to try to disrupt NATO efforts during the Cold War, including the deployment of the neutron bomb and intermediate-range nuclear weapons, while also blaming the CIA for AIDS. Overall, this should be an enjoyable course with some interesting insights. I'm excited to share it with you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Susan Bornstein, course coordinator for Roots, Resistance, and Resilience, Black History and Community in Arlington. For more than 2 centuries, African Americans shaped Arlington in profound and lasting ways, sustaining vibrant communities through segregation and leading movements for justice that still define the county today. Too often, these stories have been marginalized or left untold. Our course is designed to change that. Across 7 sessions, through a walking tour, firsthand accounts, and conversations with local Black historians, scholars, and community leaders, we'll uncover people and places that form the backbone of Black history in Arlington. Along Columbia Pike, Jessica Kaplan will trace the lives of the enslaved and the free Black families who built the roadway and shaped its early economy. Dr. Alfred Taylor Jr. will reflect on growing up in Green Valley during the 1930s, 40s, and 50s and the harsh realities of segregation. Despite legal and social barriers, the community embodied a strong spirit of it takes a village to raise a child. At Lomax AME Zion Church, historian Brenda Cox will explore the pivotal role of that church in shaping faith, identity, and activism in Arlington's Black community, from its founding in the late 19th century to today, including its very important role in civil rights. Portia Clark will discuss the legacy of John Robinson, whose leadership, journalism, and advocacy for desegregation remind us how engaged citizens transform communities. We'll also learn about desegregation of Drew School. At Fire Station 8, one of the first all-Black volunteer fire companies in the segregated South, we'll hear powerful stories of courage, excellence, and resistance from Marguerite Gooden, whose father, Captain Hartman Reed, is the last living original stationite firefighter. She'll share stories of pioneering Black firefighters who risked their lives to serve a community that was systematically underserved and their resistance to discrimination within the county's fire services. Kristen Noon will discuss the latest research from the Documenting Exclusion Project on the scope of Arlington and Northern Virginia's racially restrictive covenants and how these policies shape neighborhoods, and planned research on how Black Arlingtonians fought this exclusion with strategies of resilience. And finally, Craig Syphax will explore why preservation matters and how each of us can help protect this history. Drawing on the stories of Freedmen's Village, Queen City, and the Syphax family legacy in Arlington, he'll guide us in how we can all contribute to capturing oral histories and advocating for inclusive preservation. By the end of this course, you won't just learn history, you'll see Arlington differently. You'll understand how these stories of struggle, leadership, and hope continue to shape our shared identity and what they teach us about justice, belonging, and community today. I hope you'll join us. This history matters because it still lives all around us. Thank you so much.
In the course of the 4 years of the American Civil War, there would be a lot of changes that would occur. And I think the most dramatic changes would have occurred in the spring and summer of 1862, which is just after the 1 year mark of the American Civil War. So we will begin this class, which is called Civil War, Shifting Tides, Strategy Changes in 1862 in Central Virginia, by first examining the initial strategies of both sides to give some context. And then we will delve into those changes and the battles associated with them. So for our first program, one of the things we will be touching upon is Confederate General Thomas Jonathan Stonewall Jackson. And what we will see is that that phase of the war, there was still some question as to what his capabilities were. He would eventually command half the Confederate Army, but as we'll see, there were some doubts about just how many troops Jackson could command, and the Battle of Cedar Mountain that we will be discussing in our first talk would end up being a very critical battle for his career. In our second talk, we will take a look at the Battle of Fredericksburg, which was the most lopsided Union defeat of the war, and we will see some of the reasons why. And then in our third program, we will see how the Union Army reacted to this humiliating defeat of the Battle of Fredericksburg, and how Union General Joseph Hooker, a new Army commander, would make some massive changes in the Army, and how that period would be considered by many to be the equivalent of, during the Revolutionary War, the winter at Valley Forge, where, again, big improvements were made in the Revolutionary War Army. Our fourth talk is going to be delving into one of the specific changes made by Joseph Hooker. That's in the Federal Cavalry, as we'll discuss some key early cavalry battles in 1863. And then for our last talk, we will kind of shift gears a little bit and take a close look at some of the personal transitions that Jackson and his staff would make over the winter following the Battle of Fredericksburg.
Hello and peace be on you. My name is Osama Rahman, and I serve as the Imam, which is a Muslim pastor for the Ahmadiyya Muslim community here in Northern Virginia. I was born in North Carolina, but most of my life I spent in Georgia, That's where I did all of my schooling. And then after high school, I was able to go to the University for Languages and Theology of my community near Toronto in Canada. That was a 7-year program, and I finished just about 5 years ago. But I'm so excited to be able to bring this course to you, which is going to clear up the confusions, misunderstandings about what the religion of Islam is all about. There are many Americans, you'd be interested to find out, that don't have a Muslim acquaintance. And so the best way that they're able to find out, or the way that they're able to find out what Islam is all about, is through the media or through news, etc. And we all know that sometimes that's not always factual. It's not always true. And so I'm here as a subject matter expert. I mean, we're all learning, but the best that we can at the moment. And I'm here to help clear those confusions, speak about what Islam truly is about, and present a raw and unfiltered version. I'm here to take all questions. Nothing is, tabooed. Nothing is shunned. It's going to be an open environment where we invite questions, we invite dialogue, and obviously in a professional and educational setting. We're going to learn about the beliefs, tenets, practices in Islam, speak about some controversial topics that come up as well. People read the Holy Quran, which is the scripture in Islam. Sometimes they take out verses and say, what does it mean? What does it mean that Muslims are allowed, or Muslim men are allowed, to marry more than one wife? What does it mean where battles took place in early Islam? Why did that have to happen? We're going to try to cover these topics, speak about them factually, historically, and get to the bottom and the reality of all of this. We will speak about the Prophet of Islam, whose name was Muhammad, peace be upon him. A lot is said regarding him as well. And so we'll dive deep into his life. We'll speak about the philosophy of Islamic teachings. We'll speak about how it relates or doesn't relate to other faiths and religions as well. And so, I've offered this class before in different universities, and amazingly, all the students have been very appreciative. They've loved the course, actually. I've gotten so much feedback after the course in which these students say that every American should take this course to learn about the reality of what Islam is all about. And so I encourage all of you to take some time out, be in this friendly, open environment of learning about what the religion of Islam is all about. And so I look forward to seeing you all. Take care.
Hello, everyone. I'm Tony Tambasco, a retired faculty member from Georgetown University, and I will be pleased to share with you in this coming semester a course on Matthew, and especially the purposes of Matthew's Gospel. So what I'm going to do first is to talk about the nature of Gospels, and then I will discuss the relationship of Matthew to Mark and to Luke, which all three Gospels are kind of described as synoptic Gospels because you can see them together. And then we'll get into the purposes of Matthew. I think you will see from my introduction that Matthew organizes his material around 5 major sermons of Jesus, and those 5 major sermons that we will look at more intently will kind of get us into the major purposes of Matthew's Gospel. If we look at those sermons and then other material in Matthew as well, you will see that generally they fall into 3 categories that we'll be emphasizing in our treatment of Matthew. One is the relationship of Matthew to the culture around him, to secular culture, maybe to the Roman Empire, but certainly to the culture in general. And this will bring us around themes of social justice, concern for the poor and the oppressed, and things of that sort. We'll also see, in looking at the sermon material of Matthew, that he is now devising kind of a handbook for Christians that are coming into their own at that time. And so they need to kind of discuss church organization. They need to discuss church teaching. They need to understand how do you run a church. So Matthew's gospel will deal with a lot of that. And then finally, Matthew is going to be concerned especially about the relationship to Judaism as the community of Matthew begins to see itself distinguished from Judaism, begins to compare itself to Judaism, and sees itself as carrying on a lot of the traditions of the Old Testament. So we'll discuss those points as we go through Matthew. So I hope to see you in a little while, and I hope that we can enjoy the gospel. And I think by way of the sermon material in Matthew, we'll have kind of a controllable topic to get us through the gospel in the number of weeks that we've assigned to that study. Thank you.
"250 years of American history. It's tough to do in only 4 sessions. So what I'm going to do is concentrate almost completely on stories, document, speeches, and songs, things like that. We'll look at actual policy documents and legislation and experience some of the great speeches from Patrick Henry to Abraham Lincoln to FDR. Sometimes we'll watch short videos that summarize and capsule great events along the way. I would call it the sights and sounds of history. I've already collected a lot of really interesting material from many sources. To give you an idea of what I'm planning in the course, here's a sample of some of the material we'll cover in the second section, which I have called National Building and Conflict. Monroe Doctrine, but roughly from Monroe Doctrine 1823 to the late 1800s. In that session, we'll see what the Missouri Compromise document actually looked like, along with states' rights ideology papers and the Fugitive Slave Act of 1850. We'll read from Uncle Tom's Cabin. There will be renderings from some of the Lincoln's great speeches, also Frederick Douglass, Sojourner Truth, human stories like Clara Barton, U.S. Colored Troops, the Irish Brigade, and we'll read parts of the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments, the famous Reconstruction Amendments, which took quite a while to be approved, by the way. I'll try to make some multimedia, a multimedia experience that will keep you interested and in some cases, I hope, maybe even intrigued by some of these materials that I'll be including. Many students tell me that they like getting the notes after each session. Well, I've been doing that for a very long time. I think I've done over 24 Encore courses. I always have the notes out. So I'll give you everything, links, videos, the works. When it's all over, we'll have experienced a very large number of voices. Patrick Henry, Thomas Paine, Abigail Adams, George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, Frederick Douglass, Sojourner Truth, Martin Luther King Jr., Mark Twain, Teddy Roosevelt, Woodrow Wilson, Adolf Hitler, Winston Churchill, JFK, FDR, many suffragists, Ronald Reagan, Barack Obama, and music and lyrics from Hamilton, Bruce Springsteen, Ray Charles, and the great young American poet, Amanda Gorman, plus Marian Anderson, and many, many others. And of course, we'll see many of the great documents that have shaped our nation. So I hope you'll join me for this trip. I guarantee it will not be boring, since the material is very much alive and well, even if many of the participants aren't around anymore. Hope to see you soon in the wonderful world of Encore Learning.
We have one more class to tell you about in the history area, and we have Carl Van Newkirk back this semester offering the favorite class, Arlington History. The students in this course will visit different historic buildings and neighborhoods to learn about the rich history of Arlington. The location and directions for every session will be available on the course webpage, and I know people will enjoy this class as much as they've enjoyed it in the past.
Great. So moving on, we have a very exciting group of 9 courses in law, politics, and public affairs. including the return of global hotspots, regularly our most popular course, and now Africa 2.0, requested by many members following the highly rated Africa 1.0 last year. I know I'm very much looking forward to that. We have two very different courses on China, one through the lens of film, the other on China's influence in Latin America. We're also excited to offer two courses by GMU Schar School PhD students, both of whom have very impressive professional backgrounds, as well as interesting academic work on diverse topics. There's one course for which we don't have a video that you will see a cover slide for, and I will tell you a little bit about it as we kick off. If we obtain a clip on it, it'll be shared on YouTube and added to the online catalog. This is also an exciting new instructor and new course. So in his course, Foreign Policy Decision-Making in Iran, Stephen Gallio will provide an in-depth look at how countries, Iran in particular, make important foreign policy decisions, sometimes with very limited information. The course will look at case studies on 1, Iran's military interventions in Syria and Iraq, and 2, its response to foreign policy crises involving Israel in April, August, and October of 2024. Stephen is a PhD candidate at the Schar School, previously worked in the Middle East, Africa, and South Asia at the Department of Defense. This will be a very interesting and extremely timely course. Enjoy these overviews.
I'm Kathy McCormick and a member of Encore Learning's Academic Programs Committee, Global Hotspots course, where 6 foreign policy experts will help us better understand some of the many ongoing crises and conflicts currently taking place in the world. The speakers are all distinguished former U.S. diplomats with extensive experience in the countries and regions that will be covered. I'm going to briefly preview each of the 5 sessions for you now. First, Lucy Kurtzer-Ellenbogen is a senior fellow at the Middle East Institute. She's an expert in U.S. diplomatic history in the Middle East, regional conflict dynamics, and civil society peace-building efforts. Lucy will challenge us to consider this question: can the Israel-Hamas peace deal be sustained? The October 2025 Israel-Hamas ceasefire was an achievement, but linked, however, to an ambitious, though vague, 20-point plan. In her session, Lucy will address the pitfalls and opportunities for the U.S. and the region at this fragile moment. In a joint session, Ambassadors William Taylor and Rich Kozlarich will focus on the status of the war in Ukraine. Bill and Rich will bring us up to date on the military and economic aspects of the conflict, as well as the U.S. and international efforts to bring it to an end. Both Bill and Rich are retired ambassadors, having served in Ukraine, Bosnia-Herzegovina, and Azerbaijan, respectively. Currently, Bill is a distinguished fellow with the Atlantic Council. Rich is now a distinguished visiting professor at George Mason University. Ambassador Peter Bodie will address Nepal's decade of crises, 2015 to 2025. Ambassador Bodie served as an ambassador 3 times to Nepal, Malawi, and Libya. His illustrious career also included service in 7 other nations and the United States. Ambassador Bodie experienced the April 15th disastrous earthquake in Nepal. He led and will describe for us the reconstruction efforts and the major role the U.S. played in Nepal's recovery. Peter will also discuss the more recent 2025 Nepalese Gen Z protests, which spiraled out of control, toppling the government, destroying government buildings, and the homes and businesses of the political elites. Ambassador Bodie continues to be engaged with Nepal today. Ambassador Tibor Naj returns to GHS this spring to discuss turmoil in the Visegrad countries. In 1991, with the fall of the Iron Curtain, Poland, Hungary, and Czechoslovakia, which later became Czechia and Slovak Republic, met in Visegrad, Hungary, to foster cooperation among themselves in the military, economic, and cultural spheres, and to promote their shared goal of integration with Europe. The Visegrad Four collaborated and succeeded in joining the European Union. Subsequently, however, deep fissures developed between the EU and NATO and these countries, as well as among the Visegrad countries themselves. Ambassador Nagy will describe their disagreements with special attention to Hungary, whose prime minister faces his first serious election opponent this year, after having used his 15 years in power to capture the state and enrich his circle. Many of you know Tibor as the former ambassador to several African countries, and if you want more of him, you can take Africa 2.0, which he is teaching for Encore Learning this spring. Finally, Tom Adams will discuss Haiti, addressing the question of whether Haiti's fortunes can be reversed. Tom served as special coordinator to Haiti for 5 years after retiring from a 35-year career in the U.S. government. Haiti has enjoyed only brief periods of prosperity and stability since it declared its independence from France in 1804. Haiti was struck in 2010 by a magnitude 7.0 earthquake. Tom will describe relief and peacekeeping efforts, the short-lived period of stability and economic progress, and the current control of much of the country by gangs to help us understand why there is no quick and easy fix for Haiti. So I hope you will join me virtually on Zoom for these talks on 5 Thursday afternoons at 2 p.m., starting March 5th, 2026. Thank you very much.
Hello, welcome, and thank you for considering this course. Netflix is streaming an entertaining show, The Diplomat. It is a fictionalized account that follows a pair of American diplomats. Gets some things right, but quite a lot wrong. The reality of diplomacy is more complicated and nuanced. I'm Alex Karayanis, a retired career American diplomat. I have a PhD in history from Indiana University. As student, analyst, and practitioner, I have a half-century of experience in the diplomatic arena. This course will not critique the Netflix show, but instead examine the origins and evolution of diplomacy. From the start, diplomacy has dealt with consular issues, economics and trade, information gathering and sense-making, and war and peace. Details and technology have changed, the basics have not. It is in the people business. After a brisk overview of diplomacy in ancient China, India, Greece, and Rome, we will concentrate on Europe and the United States, from the rise of nation-states to the age of exploration and colonization, including the U.S. Revolution, to 19th century European balance of power struggles, to World War I and the agreements that shaped the modern Middle East, to post-World War II's bipolar system, and now the messy multipolar reality. You may have heard of the Thucydides trap, and we'll see if and how it applies to the U.S. and China as they maneuver for primacy in the world. We shall consider how policymakers frame issues, deal with or fail to deal with decision-making traps, and run the national security apparatus. We will briefly examine America's diplomatic corps, size, composition, budget, and how it relates to other national security agencies and their respective capacities to shape and execute policy in a more volatile and dangerous international environment. We are in an extraordinary period of executive congressional relations, where diplomacy, or its misapplication, is a friction point. The consequences of diplomatic amateurism have become more profound as America's comparative strength and leadership face unprecedented challenges. I cannot promise to be as entertaining as Netflix, but do hope you find the material interesting and informative. I look forward to tough questions and lively discussion. Thank you.
Hello, Encore Learning. My name is Drew Duggins, and I'm excited to be leading my first seminar for you on political warfare and the gray zone. Together, we're going to explore how states have used foreign policy, economics, international law, propaganda, and clandestine operations to wage politics in a warlike fashion. With the decline of the international liberal order and China reaching parity with the United States, this seminar is more important than ever. We're going to trace the evolution of political warfare throughout history and delve into how countries like Iran, Russia, China, and the United States conceptualize it today. At the end of this course, you should have an appreciation for how political warfare is a key component of grand strategy and be able to recognize how seemingly mundane international events could have long-term strategic consequences. I'm currently a PhD student at George Mason University, but I've been practicing and studying political warfare for over 14 years. all the way from the ground level in Afghanistan to the most powerful offices in the United States government. I'm excited to pull back the curtain and share unique insights from my time working with the Department of Defense and interagency partners such as USAID, the State Department, and the National Security Council. I hope you'll join me in person or online in this hybrid class, and I look forward to meeting you soon. Thanks a lot.
Hi, my name is Geerten Michielsen. I'm a Dutch national and I live right here in Arlington. This fall, I taught a class on tax reforms around the world. And next semester, we are going to take things a step further. We'll go behind the global tax game and unravel how multinational enterprises move profits across borders. By the way of a background, I'm a retired lawyer and economist from the International Monetary Fund. And before that, I was a professor in international tax law in my home country of the Netherlands. In this course, I'll guide you through 5 real-world case studies to explain the basics of international tax planning. You don't need any technical legal skills, just some curiosity and a bit of common sense. We'll explore how profits are moved across borders, how legal loopholes are created, and how governments and courts have attempted to close them. We'll see that clever structuring can save millions in taxes and how the push for fairness has changed corporate behavior. Our journey will begin with a quick overview of the main legal tools available to multinationals. Then we'll travel to some well-known tax havens, like Ireland, Luxembourg, Mauritius, the Netherlands, and Switzerland. In the Sub-Miller case, we'll see first how one of the world's largest breweries managed to pay almost no tax on its African operations. In the Starbucks case that follows next, we'll explore how something as simple as coffee beans can become more expensive when it passes through a Swiss branch, possibly with fewer staff than our local Starbucks shop. The Medtronics case will then show us how US taxes can be avoided by swapping the holding company with an Irish subsidiary. In the Apple case, we'll dive into the famous double Irish with the Dutch sandwich structure and look at how the European courts have tried to dismantle its tax benefits. And finally, we'll end with the most complex and opaque structure of all as we try to untangle the tax planning of the IKEA group. I can promise you that these classes will deliver you a surprising and thought-provoking experience. I hope they will spark discussion about how to restore fairness in the tax system. I'm looking forward to seeing many of you in March.
Hi, I'm Phil Rotundi, and my course is Election 2026 Midterm Blues. I served 25 years on congressional staff and then another 20 years managing a political action committee. All told, I've been through 23 election cycles, and frankly, I've never seen a midterm quite like this year's. Come November, voters will elect all 435 members of the House of Representatives and 35 of the 100 members of the Senate. Republicans hold narrow majorities in both chambers, but the president's party tends to fare poorly in midterm elections. Since 1946, the average midterm loss for the president's party is 25 House seats and 4 Senate seats, an outcome that would flip control of Congress to the Democrats. Democrats, too, face challenges. Nationally, Democratic voter registration is hemorrhaging, down some 2 million voters since President Trump's return to the White House. Also confounding Democrats, fewer than 36 Republican House seats are thought to be competitive this cycle. And on the Senate side, most of the Republicans up for election are in states President Trump won handily in 2024. Both parties are going to great lengths. Witness mid-decade gerrymandering to win in November. Republicans kicked off the 119th Congress with a 5-seat majority in the House, the smallest margin of control in recent history. And Republicans in the Senate weren't much better off with a lean 53-47 majority. We'll look at the 2026 midterm landscape. What do last year's New Jersey and Virginia gubernatorial contests suggest? What's the significance of voter turnout? Will the gerrymandering frenzy give either party a decisive advantage? What are the front burner issues? And how are PACs, super PACs, and dark money influencing elections? Finally, we'll look at some of the key election night races. The class will meet Thursdays, 12 noon, March 5th through March 26th. We'll meet in person, and I look forward to lots of discussion. I hope you'll join me for this preview of the 2026 midterms. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Dick Sullivan. I'll be one of the docents for our Modern China and Film class at Encore Learning. This will be our inaugural class. The class came together in discussions with fellow docent Richard Young. Our ideas for the class are: we want to provide a current view of China through film. We believe the film provides a broader and richer view of China than we could communicate in a lecture-style course. All films were produced in the last 10 years, and most have won awards. All films are available through streaming services like Amazon, Docubay, and PBS. We believe Americans are pretty much unaware of modern China and modern Chinese. China is wealthy, it has modernized its infrastructure, and it has state-of-the-art technology. Many Chinese hold degrees from American universities. We believe that Americans are not positioned to appreciate the stakes in recent Chinese-American relationships. We see indications that the tone of the relations has worsened. We'll have 8 class sessions. We will show and discuss the film in each class. We hope to address but not completely answer 4 questions. Who are the modern Chinese? What is China like today? What are the impacts of explosive growth inside China? And finally, what are the global impacts outside China? The recommended readings will take you to the next step in learning about China. In Other Rivers, A Chinese Education, published in 2024, Peter Hessler gives a look inside China through the lens of the classroom. Teacher Hessler illustrates Chinese students and their parents and their challenges, some like and some very unlike their American counterparts. He reports on his twin daughter's entry into the 3rd grade in Chengdu, China. Neither speaks Mandarin. Hessler humanizes modern China and Chinese. In Breakneck, China's Quest to Engineer the Future, published in 2025, Dan Wang explains the strengths and weaknesses of modern China. He advises hedge fund managers on Chinese investment. His analysis and insights seem far ahead of anything we've seen from the U.S. government. We see China as the most significant foreign concern facing the U.S. over the next 25 years. Americans need to learn much more about China. So, grab your popcorn.
Hi, I'm Ambassador Tibor Naj. I was a career diplomat for over 30 years. I spent 22 years in Africa at 8 different African postings, including twice as ambassador, 3 times as deputy ambassador. Then I served as Assistant Secretary of State for Africa. This spring, I'm really looking forward to teaching Africa 2.0, which is a follow-on course to the Africa class I've taught for Encore Learning over the last several years. In this course, we'll be delving deeper into some of Africa's major issues, which we covered briefly in the earlier class. And these will include topics like conflicts and crises, which are severely impacting Africa currently. We'll talk about Africa's economic transformation and the role of development. We'll be talking about Africa's political dynamics and Africa's evolving international relations, or what some people call the new scramble for Africa. In Africa 2.0, the sessions will be longer, so we'll have time to do videos and engage more in class discussion. If you're wondering if you needed to take the earlier class for this one, not at all. Really would welcome you to the class and hope that you'll be signing up for it. Thank you very much.
Rob Albro. I'm a professor and associate director of American University's Center for Latin American and Latino Studies. I'm also trained as a sociocultural anthropologist, and for over 25 years, I've researched, written, and taught about changing cultural and political dynamics in Latin America. Since the end of the Cold War, global geopolitical realities have changed dramatically. Instead of an era of hope for international cooperation, we've entered one of new competition and perhaps the emergence of a second, if different, kind of Cold War. The biggest story in Latin America over the past 15 years has been the unprecedented growth of China's regional influence and the U.S. response to this new perceived threat in its own backyard. This course will take a close look at the multiple economic, political, security, and cultural dimensions of China's emergence in Latin America, including the particular ways its so-called Belt and Road Initiative has become relevant throughout the region, as well as the different responses of Latin American countries to China's overtures and U.S. efforts to counter China's ascent. Using Latin America as a regional case study, we will consider what the U.S.-China rivalry tells us about the future of global geopolitics. Each week, we will unpack one among the several dimensions of China's emergence in Latin America. We will often highlight specific country cases in a rapid tour throughout the region, identifying the different variations of China's approach, the embrace or rejection of China by different countries, and the changing shape of the U.S.-China rivalry as it has gained momentum. Optional, short, informative, and non-technical readings will be assigned for each unit, and I'll come prepared to frame and discuss each week's topic, often with visual accompaniments. But the course is, of course, designed as a discussion, and your questions, contributions, and insights are more than welcome. The U.S.-China competition in Latin America promised to shape the region for decades to come. Taking a closer look at how this is currently playing out offers insight not only into the future of Latin America, but also into comparable nascent Cold War dynamics in Africa, Southeast Asia, and elsewhere.
We're back here with our break. We've got just a few minutes between the segments. This is an official break if you need to step away from your screen for a few minutes. But also we're going to give you some reminders and respond to any questions that maybe have come in on the Q&A. So if you do have a question, just a reminder, you can put it in the Q&A and we will either respond in the Q&A or over the Zoom here right now. Susan, Deb, any thoughts about what you've just viewed in the past hour?
Wow. I was just thinking about the good news and the bad news of this preview. The good news is I am so excited about these course offerings. I mean, Susan and I have been working on them with the other members of the APC, but when you see it all together, it's a big wow. The bad news is, how can I fit all these classes in the spring? I just was glancing at the schedule thinking, well, I think I can squeeze this one in. Maybe I could add that one. And I'm already at Class 8. So the big dilemma is, how many classes can I sign up for? Susan, do you have the same ideas, the same thing going on?
Yes, pretty much. I'm also just very energized by a fantastic group of Shar School students who not only are pursuing really interesting academic work in their doctoral programs, but bring a lot of really fascinating professional experience. So I think it'll be just very interesting to juxtapose some of these younger professionals, but who have like very solid credentials and expertise with some of the more experienced diplomats. So I think we've got a really exciting lineup that you just saw in this law public affairs group. That's just super energizing. I think going to be a lot of fun also. There is a question in the chat that Donna is addressing, which is, can I join Encore at the same time as I register for a course or ahead of registration? And so those looking for an answer.
You can definitely join in advance, and I recommend it. That way you know you've got your login set up, your password's working, you've actually worked with the shopping cart so that you're ready to go on Monday morning. If you just want to make one transaction and do it on Monday, you can do it at the same time. But I do recommend getting it processed in advance, and that way you'll won't have that extra step on Monday morning at 10 a.m. We do know that some classes will fill up right away. They might fill up in the first few minutes. It's sad, but true. Very popular classes. And other classes, there's plenty of room. Virtual classes, some of them can have a large audience, and it's just fine.
Well, ISAR has asked, sorry,
Yep.
go ahead.
Go ahead.
ISAR has asked a great question. Can I register my husband, who's also a member? We're both new to Encore, at the same time as I register for a class, or does he have to register himself separately?
So individuals have to process separate registration. I would recommend that they register one person and then log out and then log in and register the next person, or use two different devices. You can register on a cell phone using a smartphone, iPad, computers. So it might be more efficient for two separate logins to be happening. Every member has their own member account based on their username, which is usually their email, and their password. And you do need to be a member to register.
There's a question about how to access class recordings of classes that one cannot attend.
Well, that's a great question. And I actually have an example of something I wanted to share, which is every class that you register for will have a class webpage. It is a whole page dedicated to your class that has everything you need to know. It has the day, the location, if it's a Zoom class, what the Zoom login is, what the password is for that Zoom, the course materials for the class. If there's any PowerPoints or syllabus, that'll be posted on the course webpage. And then the class recordings are posted there each week, usually within 2 business days of the class. The recording is posted there, and you can view it anytime on your own. And those recordings will be available until July 31st. This is an example from a class from the fall. So you will have until July 31 to view any of the recordings for the classes. We really encourage people to sign up for a class if they can be there. But if you have a complicated schedule and know you're not going to take a class, it's okay to sign up for a class and just view the recordings. Some of the classes do have opportunity for more discussion and questions, and so if you're viewing the recording, you miss that opportunity.
I want to also stress how great the whole website is. You're going to see it when you sign up for your classes, but after that, you should take a look around the website. We've got all kinds of information about Encore Learning, right down to the question of how to use the parking garage at GMU, and also information about the themes of the classes. So if you have a chance, do browse our website.
Definitely.
Do we have any other questions? It looks like no. Okay.
I just want to remind folks when on Monday at 10 a.m. So if you look at our website now, the courses, it just says read only for a course registration. And at 10 a.m., that switches and says register now. And some people don't see that right away, and you might need to refresh your browser so that you can actually click register. You will add classes to your shopping cart, and then you'll be prompted to put in your payment information and check and be able to check out. We do have some, security on our site. Some people encounter a button that says you have to verify that you're not a robot. There's no CAPTCHA question or anything. You just have to say, I'm not a robot. And that should help you get through. Those are my tips. If you add something to your cart, it will stay there for a little bit, but it does time out. I wouldn't wait more than 5 or 10 minutes to finish your registration.
And there's one more question. I think it says, how do I access the website?
Well, if you go to www.encorelearning.net, and then there's a button that says register or view online classes. And then you'll see the whole online catalog. The listing is in alphabetical order, but you can also view by category or view by instructor.
And a reminder that if you're thinking about, well, do I want this course or that course? They're at the same time, or you have some questions, just click on the video for the class and you'll see the instructor preview once again.
That's right. The links to the videos will be in the course descriptions online tomorrow.
So Jan was specifically asking about the class webpage versus the Encore Learning webpage. And so I can just go ahead and answer that. So after you register for a course, you will get an email with information about the course, reconfirming the location, etc., the details, and in that you will see a link to the course website. So you can either bookmark that link or you can just save the email. I do both. And another reason you'll want to have that handy is that in addition to the PowerPoints that are posted, also resources, articles, etc., are posted by the instructor often on a regular basis, and you can access those as the course goes on via that webpage. So you will get that email a week or two before the course kicks off, and you'll have that link.
It's actually 2 days before the class begins. You get the class reminder, has the link, it has the Zoom links if it's a Zoom class, and it has the link to the class webpage. If the instructor has shared a syllabus or some information earlier, we will send out that information at that time.
So Claire asked if one could register for more than one course before checking out. Absolutely.
Yes, you can add several. We have members that take as many as 10 classes, and they put them all in their bucket and check out.
Laura has asked, can I sort offerings to see only those offered virtually or hybrid?
I don't think that you can filter in that way. Well, actually, you can filter by location. I'm sorry, I can't pull it up right now, but there's a couple different ways of filtering.
You can filter on the website itself in that way. So then when you're at the site where you want to actually register, your choices will be informed by that, how that is presented on another part of the website.
Yep.
And also, if you're looking at the course catalog, there's a wonderful one-pager that puts every class by category, and there's a column as well that says site, and it tells you virtual, GMU, etc. So it's really handy for comparing what you're interested in taking and then being on the website to finish it off.
Yes, thank you, Rick, for reinforcing that in the chat.
Oh.
And that class grid that is in page 1 of the catalog is online. If you go to our website and go to courses, you can view the class grid, and you could easily see the options in that way. Those of you that want to, you could download it and do your own filtering. I do want to take a moment and really thank some groups of members that are here today. We have viewers from Goodwin Living Alexandria and Goodwin Living Bailey's Crossroads. So there may be folks here also from the Jefferson or the Fitzgerald. I'm not sure who's here. If you are there today with a group of folks, you can certainly put a note into the Q&A. I know it's not a question, but we'd love to share that. And also we look at how many people attend the preview, and it's great to know if the numbers are higher than the actual number of Zoom participants. So if you have a group, you can put it in, or you can send an email to us just to let us know. Or if you have a picture of your group watching, we'd love to share that too. Appreciate that. I don't think we have other questions right now. If you have questions, send an email to info@encorelearning.net anytime, and we'll continue. We can introduce the next segment.
Okay, I'm looking. Let's see. And here is our lineup for literature and writing, which I'm so very happy to introduce. It's one of my favorites, although they're all my favorites. As usual, we have a lot of Shakespeare. Our members love Shakespeare. No one ever tires of Shakespeare. We have classes, different parts of Shakespeare's repertoire. But also, we are going all the way from Japanese poetry to drama to women journalists. I think there's something here for everyone. And for those of you who always wanted to try War and Peace, here's your chance. But don't panic. This is only the first half of War and Peace. You're going to have all summer to read part 2 for the fall. So here we go. Let's see what's happening in literature and writing.
I'm Marty Saddam, the instructor for the 6th session course, Writing a Memoir. I took this class with Encore Learning in 2014 and have been teaching it since 2017, now for the 9th time. Before, when I took other memoir courses and read many memoir writing books, I still felt as though I was missing many things I needed to know, as well as the very important concepts of storytelling and how to develop the habits and skills to write regularly and well. The same course has been taught face-to-face and virtually, but I personally believe virtual may be the most effective. In virtual, we can accomplish the same course objectives, but with the use of Zoom breakout rooms function, we can allow for better small group interaction without distraction in a classroom with a small groups interfacing chatter. I wrote and published 2 books of memoirs before I wrote a book, same name as this course, Writing a Memoir. That book is comprised of the topics I wished I'd learned before I started to try to publish. The book could be considered a course text and is organized into 6 short chapters with many memoir examples that are covered in the lecture portion of each class and for later reference once the class is over. The chapters and sessions are Session 1, Getting Started, what memoirs are and understanding tools that can make your writing easier and more efficient. Session 2, Research, what kind of research is required for memoir writing and how best to do it. Session 3, Storytelling. This is the core of good memoir writing. It is a skill that takes practice to make readers want to read your work. Session 4, Organizing, the methods and practice for organizing source materials and organizing writing products. Session 5, Permissions, developing a process for cataloging materials and writing containing intellectual property and copyright. Session 6, Publishing, thinking, preparing, and the technical matters about publishing when you start writing, not after the writing is done. Each class session is 2 hours, with half being lecture and the other half reading class members short stories in small groups. The real difference in this course over other memoir courses is learning how to be part of a writing group that keeps you motivated to write and allows for feedback from an interested audience. In Encore Learning, we have several writing groups inspired by this course that allow members to keep writing and meeting long after the actual course ends. The oldest group having been meeting continuously since 2012. I look forward to having you join me in a lifelong learning and doing enterprise of memoir writing in the spring.
My name is John Fordresher. I'm an emeritus professor of English from Georgetown University. And in the spring of 26, I'm going to be offering a 5-week encore class called Reading War and Peace. We're going to read about 100+ pages per week, and we will be able to cover the whole first half of the book, starting the 4th of March and ending the 1st of April. Class sessions will be discussions about the novel as a novel, characters, settings, situations, themes, ideas, and so on. I'll have some ideas to offer every week, and we'll be inviting participants to offer their suggestions and ideas as well. We'll have breakout sessions for that Q&A part of each week. Absolutely crucial for the well-functioning of the course for an individual is that they get the edition of War and Peace, the translation by Purvier and Volokhonsky. It's on vintage paperback, 2008. And that's the edition I'll be working with, and I hope students will have a copy in hand as well. So if you're interested, please join Pierre, Natasha, Prince Andre, and me on the 4th of March, and we'll get into War and Peace. Bye-bye.
I'm Dr. Kathleen Decker, and this course is going to be about a couple of different forms of Japanese poetry, notably haiku, tanka, and then we will actually practice writing both haiku, senryu, which is slightly different from haiku, and tanka. And I'll introduce you to renku, and we may not actually write renku, but I'll definitely show you some renku, and we'll have some fun examining what it is. Haiku is often misunderstood by Westerners as simply a 3-line poem, and there's quite a bit of haiku named that in English, which is definitely not haiku. The idea is that a 3-line poem in English doesn't simply mean you write 3 lines and then call it a poem. And in fact, many people in English will write a 3-line poem, which is simply a sentence. And it's 3 thoughts strung together, and that is not what haiku is. Haiku was originally written about nature, not about people at all. And so one of the big differences between haiku and senryu is that senryu introduces people into a 3-line poem, whereas haiku originally was just about nature. But anyway, we're going to have a lot of fun. We'll look at both traditional examples going back to the 15th century, but then we'll look at modern haiku, modern senryu, and we will write our own as well as looking at traditional examples. And when it comes to tanka, tanka is simply a 3-line haiku with 2 extra lines added, and that's where you begin to put humans into the equation by adding the extra 2 lines of commentary. And renku is simply a kind of a strung poem where you add 3 lines, then 2 lines, and add another voice, meaning another poet. Anyway, we will have a lot of fun with those kinds of forms written in English. And in the past, at George Mason, some of my students and I even made a book based on our class. But we will have a lot of fun looking at those forms in English, and I've been doing this since the 1990s. I'm a member of the Haiku Society of America since the 90s, and have even produced a movie on a 100-link renku that I did with several other international poets. So I hope you come join me. We'll have a lot of fun and make our own poems. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. In this spring of celebrating 1776, the American Women Writers course is set to explore a more subtle revolution. We'll start in 1876 and track the rise of America's women journalists. They weren't supposed to be there. Women didn't belong in the public sphere. Yet by the 1880s, women were columnists, Washington correspondents, even editors, like Ida B. Wells, who campaigned against racist policies as editor of her own Memphis newspaper. But women were not wanted as reporters, not tough enough, not independent enough, just needed for domestic advice columns and society pages to give the woman's point of view. But Nellie Bly got herself committed to the New York Women's Asylum to report a woman's view of the inside. In the 20s, Dorothy Parker attracted readers to a new magazine, The New Yorker, with smart, witty columns and powerful short stories from a career woman's point of view. 20 years after that, Martha Gellhorn stowed away in a hospital ship in the English Channel so that she could write eyewitness accounts of D-Day and the fighting after it. Marguerite Higgins was the first American inside the gates when the Dachau concentration camp was liberated in 1945. Both made the front page and reputations as tough, competitive reporters. Another decade later came brilliant essays from Joan Didion and a young zoologist named Rachel Carson, who warned about pesticides and pollution, sparked the modern environmental movement. I found an affordable paperback anthology for us to use. It's listed in the course catalog, and it supplies these stories and more. For our Friday morning reading circle, 2-hour class on Zoom with PowerPoint lectures and continuing ongoing shared discussion in chat. In the 100 years between 1876 and 1976, some talented, tough, independent women writers helped to create and then reshape American journalism with a woman's point of view. I hope you'll come join our conversation about them this spring.
Othello is one of Shakespeare's 4 great tragedies and is arguably the most controversial today. Othello deals with issues that seem particularly relevant to our own time: racism and misogyny. Othello is a Moor, an outsider, and also a general in the Venetian army. He elopes with Desdemona, an aristocratic white woman, and on the same evening is dispatched to Cyprus to lead a campaign against the invading Turks. But the invasion never takes place, and Othello and his officers occupy Cyprus. It is then that Iago, Othello's ensign, suddenly begins to suggest that Desdemona has been unfaithful to him. Othello is soon convinced, and at the end of the play, he murders her in their bed. One question the play raises: what role does racism or race play in Othello? 3 women appear in the play: Desdemona, Emilia, who is the wife of Iago, and Bianca, the mistress of Cassio, who is Othello's lieutenant. All 3 are abused and mistreated by the men to whom they are committed, but they all remained loyal to him. But what is interesting in the play is that Bianca and Desdemona respond differently to the abuse that they have received. So another question gets raised by the play. What do these responses tell us about their experience, about the experience of women who are abused? Finally, Othello embodies another, subtler issue about the constructs by which we invest our lives and the world we live in with order and meaning. Othello's fragile belief that the world makes sense is undermined by Iago's persistent suggestions of Desdemona's infidelity. That sense of order and disorder is constantly at play in Othello. These are the issues we'll discuss as we talk about Othello in the class. Since several film versions of the play are also available, we shall have an opportunity to consider during the classes how actors and directors have brought the play to life through performance. And so, you'd be very welcome to join the course on Othello. I hope to see you in April.
Academic critics, audiences, not to say even theater history, have named Hamlet as Shakespeare's greatest tragedy. But for us, during the 5 weeks of this course, from April 17th to May 15th, the drama will remain peripheral for our purposes, although I would encourage a rereading of the text before we begin with the play. Notwithstanding a general familiarity with the play. Rather, what we will be concerned with are the ways in which a number of contemporary authors, 3 to be exact, have chosen to use, challenge, indeed play with the narrative arc of this crucial work in Shakespeare's canon. We will begin with Maggie O'Farrell's Hamnet, an attempt to establish a biographical context for the playwright's theatrical invention, albeit a fictive one. And yes, do see the film if you can, so long as you don't use it as an excuse to avoid the novel. Next, we will explore John Updike's briefer tale, Gertrude and Claudius, a prequel, relating relating the events that provoke the tragic action of Hamlet itself. Finally, we will conclude with the late Tom Stoppard's 1966 absurdist Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead, a radical revisioning of the source, experienced by secondary or perhaps tertiary figures, those supposed friends of our protagonist. Let us hope that this literary encounter will allow us to reappraise what we think we know about the tragedy of Hamlet and see the play with new eyes and a deeper understanding.
Hi, my name is Tessa Klein, and I am so excited to be leading this next class, Classical versus Contemporary Plays. We are going to look this session at 2 very different plays, Our Town by Thornton Wilder, which I imagine many of you may know, and then a wonderful play called The Wanderers by Anna Ziegler. On the surface, these plays are very different. One is from the 1930s, wildly famous, written by a man. The other is from 2018, considerably less well-known, written by a woman. But something that I am really excited to discover over the course of these sessions is, what do these shows have in common? What questions are they asking that are the same, that are similar, that are different? And how are these questions and the messages or whatever we learn from these shows relevant to each of our own lives? Questions like, who are we allowed to love? What does it mean to be a part of the community? What do we owe to our communities? And I think ultimately, how should we live our lives? We will read scenes from these plays. We will argue about the scenes from these plays. We'll agree and disagree in infinite measure over what we think is the same and different and our opinions. And I think personally, that's one of the most fun things about theater, is seeing a play and then pulling it apart afterwards, comparing your opinion to that of your neighbor. So I'm very eager and excited to do that with all of you. I have been teaching with Educational Theater Company, leading their Creative Age class for the past 3 years. For anyone who doesn't know, Educational Theater Company is a phenomenal not-for-profit based in Arlington. They have students of all ages, but the Creative Age class focuses specifically on providing quality, continuing, engaging arts education for adults over 55. And I'm also a performer. I'm an actress here in DC. I've worked all over the DMV. Before I was here, I was in New York for about a decade, doing Broadway, off-Broadway, commercials, all that different stuff. And I'm just delighted to meet all of you and to figure out what we're all going to learn from looking at these two, I think, quite remarkable pieces of theater side by side. We begin in person on April 8th, and I can't wait to meet you all. Thank you.
Revels now are ended. These are actors. As I foretold you, we're all spirits and are melted into air, into thin air. And like the baseless fabric of this vision, the cloud-capped towers, the gorgeous palaces, the solemn temples, the great globe itself, yea, all which it inherit shall dissolve, and like this insubstantial pageant faded, leave not a wreck behind. We are so stuff as dreams are made on, and our little life is rounded with a sleep. That's Prospero speaking toward the end of The Tempest, closing off a wedding mask of all things on a deserted island, a play within a play. But it's also Shakespeare, closing off a truly remarkable 20-year career in theater, a career marked by innovation and creativity such as never been equaled in English literature. It's Shakespeare's last play, apart from a couple of lesser collaborations. And almost uniquely among Shakespeare's plays, it's not based on any earlier work. This one emerged wholly out of Shakespeare's fertile imagination. In this class, we'll take a close look at this work, at its sources, such as they were, at its structure. It may well be the most carefully designed of all his works, at its innovative language, and most of all at its characters, including two of the most fascinating characters Shakespeare ever created. And I'm speaking of Caliban, a bestial subhuman who nevertheless always speaks in verse, unlike some of his low-life European counterparts, and who has some of the best lines in the play. And of course, Ariel, a fairy spirit who can perform prodigious feats of magic, but longs for only to be free. And as well, as I like to do in these classes, we will look at some of the topics that were on Shakespeare's mind and the minds of his audience at the moment the play was crafted, that caused him to write the play that he did and write it as he did. Most particularly, the earth-shaking discoveries of a whole new part of the planet that Europeans had stumbled across a century earlier, and that England was only now beginning to colonize in earnest. So if all that sounds interesting, join us for 4 sessions on Mondays starting in March for The Tempest, Shakespeare's final masterpiece.
Great. Well, we've made it to our last area, science and technology and social sciences. So responding to significant member interest in more courses on artificial intelligence, we're super happy to have 2 very different AI offerings this term. We're just thrilled for the first time to offer an architecture class, which members have been asking for years. Science and Data Oh My will return, a course that could not be more relevant in this current moment in time. I highly recommend it. I learned a ton. We're delighted that 2 GMU Schar School PhD candidates are among our new instructors in this bucket. And Dreaming of Spring, our very popular regular spring ephemerals course, also returns. Members will visit 5 parks and learn about flowers and wildlife, and will be just convinced that spring is just around the corner. It's going to happen. And then don't miss our last 2 social science courses. These are fantastic offerings. We have a long-awaited Modern Ireland course with a group of very dynamic speakers. And last but not least, and more relevant than ever, we have an updated course on poverty and disparities in the land of opportunity. And this course is going to examine economic disparities both in Arlington and nationwide and proposals to change these systems. Enjoy these final courses.
Chosen sources for news or information, you're likely bombarded with the results of scientific studies, surveys, polls, and the like. But do their findings always make sense to you? Do you sometimes question their methods? Have you wondered what terms like margin of error and randomized control study really mean? Here's a simple example. Arlington Now often reports the median price of homes sold in the county during the previous month. But does median mean mean or average? The answer, it depends. I'm Mike Stutz. I'm a retired academic neuropsychologist who has taught on-course Aging in the Brain course for 4 semesters. That material is second nature to me. What I'm not is a mathematician or a statistician. There will be only one equation in this course. While I had to pass such courses in order to earn my degrees, the material and concepts rarely came easily to me. Hence, one of my strongest motivations for offering this course. My objective is that participants will finish this course as more discerning consumers of the workings of science and its findings. We will first unpack the rationale and processes underlying the scientific method as the foundation for scientific inquiry. We will then overview statistical methods that are used not only to make sense of a study's collected data, but sometimes to test the soundness of the study itself. Next, we will review how findings obtained through statistical analyses are interpreted and presented. And finally, we'll consider ways in which science sometimes misses the mark. If you'd like to learn more about how the science sausage is made and how to consume it more wisely, I'm looking forward to showing you in March.
Hello, my name is Barbara Phillip. I'm pleased to introduce a new Encore Learning course. It's called Generative Artificial Intelligence, Exploring Tools, Techniques, and Critical Thinking. You have probably encountered generative AI already. Could be through search engine, writing assistants, or through the news. And you've likely heard about ChatGPT, as well as other generative AI tools like Gemini, Claude, perhaps even Perplexity. So in this course, we will explore how these tools work, what they're good at, and where they fall short, as well as why they can make mistakes. We will look at practical uses for these tools, such as research, writing, learning new topics, organizing information, travel planning, and perhaps even troubleshooting everyday technology. We will also examine some creative uses as well as some higher risk areas that could include financial, legal, medical research, where it's really important to include added caution when using generative AI. So a central theme throughout the course is going to be critical thinking. Generative AI does not replace human judgment. Perhaps it's the contrary. It requires a lot of human judgment. So you will learn how to ask better questions, how to match your goals to the right tool, and also how to evaluate AI generative responses so that you don't take their responses at face value necessarily. Whether you're attending in person or online, so this course will be hybrid, participants will be encouraged to engage, to ask questions, and to learn from one another. In addition, a key feature of the course is going to be hands-on exploration. So in every session, we will spend at least 30 minutes in what I call demonstration mode, when we'll be trying out different tools together. And as a participant, you can follow the demonstration along on your own device if you'd like. So if you decide to join me in this course, you will leave better equipped to make informed decision about when and how to use generative AI, including when it makes sense not to use it. And that will be based on your own judgment of its usefulness, its limitations, and its relevance to your own life. So I look forward to seeing you in the spring.
Hi there. My name is Kimberly, or Kimmy Ma, and I will be your instructor for the Encore Learning course, Biosecurity 101, History, Policy, and Global Risks. By way of self-introduction, I have worked in this field with and for the federal government for the past 7 years or so. I am also a fourth-year PhD student with George Mason University's Biodefense Department. So upon hearing the title of this course, your first question may be, well, what is biosecurity in the first place? Great question. As you also may glean from the title, however, this is an introductory course where we explore the answer to exactly that question and why this field is important, even if you don't know it yet, for everyone. As a quick rundown, during the first 2 weeks, we'll be covering the fundamentals. So this includes the definition of biosecurity, relevant history, and biosecurity in practice, such as relevant US, non-US, and multinational institutions. And we'll also cover what working in biosecurity can look like day to day. I will give a little bit of a sneak peek now. There is a lot happening in the biosecurity world. You just might not know about it if it doesn't make the news. And then for the next 2 weeks, we will continue on that thread and cover what biosecurity practitioners are currently working on, talking about, debating about. This will include the hottest topics in the field right now, such as the implications of AI on biotechnology and regulating certain types of biological research. We'll dive into why these are really complex problem sets that unfortunately don't have simple solutions. And I hope that after those 2 weeks, you'll come away at least with an appreciation for why these topics have remained so intensely debated for so many years. And finally, to end things with a bit more of a bang, we will spend our last class working through a scenario exercise. So students will be able to role play as the leaders of different federal U.S. agencies that would normally have a role in responding to real-life biological threats. Should be fun. It's an opportunity to try applying the knowledge that we've built up from the previous weeks, and you'll also hopefully get a taste of agencies' authorities versus things like the public's expectations, and how agencies in reality may collaborate and respond or not. I am personally really excited to be able to bring this topic into the spotlight for more folks. And if this preview has piqued your interest at all, then I hope to see you in class soon.
Morning, my name is Gus Ardura, and I'm an architect with 50 years of experience. 47 of those spent working for large national firms doing work around the country. Since my retirement from private practice, I've served on several design review committees in Alexandria, and even worked on a pro bono basis for communities such as Arlington County, representing zip code 22-22202 on the reconfiguration of Route 1. This course in architecture is both a survey course to look at salient points in architectural history and a more detailed look at some important work being done today affecting our neighborhoods and our cities. We'll start by looking at important architectural work from the Greeks to present times and discuss how that work reflects the social aspirations and values of their time. We'll look at specific projects that have greatly influenced architecture over the course of history and some of the architects that have influenced architecture the most. In the course of that, I want to explore the question, what is the value that architects bring? Is good architecture good business? I think it is. If so, however, why is there so much mediocre architecture? And what are the forces holding it back? How have architects strived to bring meaning, visual order, and cultural interpretation to every civilization and social period in history? I believe that every architect that I know wants to make environments healthier, happier, and more uplifting for the people that live in their buildings. So this course will start as a history of architecture for the first 3 classes and finish with a more detailed look at several building types that characterize our cities. And those three classes will be taught by guest speakers who are experts in their particular areas, such as housing and office building conversion to housing, resilient and energy efficient building, data center development, and what are some strategies to ameliorate the negative effects of data centers in our neighborhoods. And urban design, or urbanity, and moving to higher density. Pretty much every jurisdiction wants to increase density. What are the pros and the cons? This is a 6-class course taught on Tuesdays from 2 to 3:30 in person at the Arlington campus of George Mason from April 7th to May 12th. There's a lot of ground to cover, so we are going to move fast. Bring your ideas and your questions, and we'll kick them around. Take care.
Of the park naturalists for Long Branch Nature Center here in Arlington, Virginia. And I'll be the one leading much of the series of spring ephemeral wildflower walks around Arlington, maybe a little of Alexandria and some Fairfax, Virginia areas. I've been leading nature programs as a naturalist and park ranger for state and national parks for nearly 40 years, from the Poconos of eastern Pennsylvania and Massachusetts down to the many parks of northern Florida, and a lot of places in between. So we're going to go explore Northern Virginia, which has some of the greatest wildflowers coming, some from the north, some from the south. We'll get a wide variety. These spring ephemerals are those flowers that pop up typically in the forests and natural areas of the Arlington area before all the leaves from the forest trees start to block out all the sun. So for a short period of time, for just a few weeks, we'll be getting a bright array of blues and yellows and reds all over the place. Sometimes it'll be quiet at the beginning, but as the season goes on, more and more flowers are going to pop up. They will dot the floors with as they force their way through the detritus of the wintertime. So as we do that, we're going to be looking out through these mid-Atlantic region areas to see things like trilliums and mustards, Dutchman's breeches, phlox, spring beauties, lilies, violets, and so much more. During these 5 hikes, we're going to be checking out some areas along the river, like the Potomac River area, at places like Riverbend Park or Teddy Roosevelt Island. But we'll also be going up to Winkler Botanical Gardens and another couple gardens where it's actually more upland sandhill areas. And we'll find a good variety of stuff there. Come prepared with some sturdy shoes, maybe a little water and some snack, and be prepared for whatever the weather happens to be. Come dressed for it. Because the wildflowers really don't care what the weather is. They just want to get up while they still can. So I look forward to having you join me and the other people that I bring along with us to explore not just wildflowers, but birds and frogs and mushrooms and whatever happens to come across our way. So I look forward to seeing you soon in this spring. Again, this is Rob Bernofsky over Long Branch Nature Center. See you soon.
Hi everyone, I am Neelam Shukla. Presently, I am pursuing PhD in Public Policy from George Mason University. My area of focus is AI regulations. This spring semester, I'll be teaching regulating artificial intelligence, balancing innovation and responsibility. Artificial intelligence is moving fast, faster than laws, faster than institutions, and sometimes faster than our ability to understand its consequences. So here's the real question. What happens when a technology reshapes society before society has agreed on the rules? The course is about that moment. AI already influences what we see online, how decisions are made about credit, hiring, healthcare, even our safety. These systems promise efficiency and innovation, but they also raise difficult questions about power, bias, accountability, and trust. When something goes wrong, who is responsible? The developer, the company, the government, or the algorithm itself? In this course, we would just ask whether AI should be regulated. We'll ask how, by whom, and at what cost. We'll explore how different parts of the world are responding to the same technology in very different ways. Europe is building guardrails grounded in human rights and risk prevention. The United States is experimenting with more flexible, market-driven approach. China offers yet another model where governance, state priorities, and rapid deployment intersect. We'll also confront the hard problem: how to oversee systems that learn and evolve, how to reduce bias without sacrificing performance, and how regulation affects innovation, startups, and global competition. By the end, you won't just understand AI regulation, you will be equipped to question it, critique it, and help shape it. And in a world increasingly shaped by algorithm, that is the skill that matters. I am looking forward to this course. Hope we have a very fruitful and productive semester. Thank you.
Hi there, I'm Ann Vorderbrugge. The title of my course comes from the fact that the promise of America as the land of opportunity is contradicted by the reality that millions of people work hard, play by the rules, but can barely get by. Fewer than a quarter of Americans believe that the American dream still exists. Just a bit about me. I'm a 45-year resident of Arlington, and I retired a couple of years ago as Director of Grants and Economic Mobility Initiatives for the Arlington Community Foundation. I've been fortunate to have an amazingly rich career working for local nonprofits, the county's Department of Human Services, and in Arlington schools on behalf of people living under severe economic pressures. I've witnessed their hopes for themselves and their children, their living conditions, and the barriers they face in trying to get by and get ahead. During this 5-week class, we'll look at economic disparities both here in Arlington and nationwide. And I think for most of us, the concept of poverty is so big and complicated, it's hard to wrap our brains around it. So my hope is that I can pull the curtain back and make the issue more real. My colleagues from the Community Foundation will share local insights on Arlington's affordability challenges and the pressures that this puts on our very low-income neighbors. We'll talk about why addressing these issues matters to the health and viability of our community. Other guest speakers will share their own experiences struggling to keep Arlington their home, even while working multiple jobs. And for the national perspective, we'll learn about policies and systems that actually perpetuate poverty. I borrow heavily from the work of Matthew Desmond in his book, Poverty by America. That book is very readable and very enlightening. You might be surprised by what you learn about the structural forces at play that keep many people in poverty. The recent disruptions that we've all heard so much about to Medicaid and SNAP and other critical safety net systems have been justified by people in power using stereotypes and false assumptions about low-income people. We'll compare these stereotypes with what the actual data show, and we will address how immigrants have become scapegoats for our economic anxieties. I think the biggest takeaway for my class is that poverty isn't a result of personal failures, but rather it's the result of failed policies. So as far as what can we do about it, we'll explore tax reforms and investments proposed by Matthew Desmond and a group called the Patriotic Millionaires, as well as Dr. Derek Hamilton, who's a renowned economist who has laid out a vision for a human rights economy. They are all hopeful that capitalism can be a force for good for all if our national and local policies and our own personal choices don't prioritize subsidizing affluence over alleviating poverty. I'd like the class to be interactive and comfortable for everyone. And as I mentioned, I'll have some terrific guest speakers. I hope to see you in my class.
Díomh Muintir Encore. Good evening to you, the Encore community, from the banks of the lordly and majestic Shannon here in County Limerick in Ireland. I'm Paddy Mescal, and with my co-presenters Michael Collins and Christopher Griffin, we look forward in March to sharing with you our knowledge, our insights, and our opinions about Ireland. And I want to take this occasion to thank Mary Kay Davis for the wonderful work that she has done in helping us organise these series of lectures. We look forward to it, and through our collective knowledge and our collective experience, we will give you a varied and thoughtful and personal journey through Irish history, contemporary, and through Irish literature. There are 4 lectures, and I will be doing the first 2. In the first lecture, I will share with you what happened in Ireland since 1990. There has been a deep and rapid transformation of the whole country on political, economic, social, and cultural lines. And I will share with you the sources of that transformation, the implications for the country and what impacts it has, and what are the prospects for Ireland for the next 25 years. In the second lecture, I will focus more on how arts and culture form a critical and important part of Irish self-identity. And starting back in prehistory with the founding poem of Ireland and right up to the current rap in Oscuelge in Irish group NECAP, I will help you understand how arts, culture, and particularly music, poetry, and literature have formed a key part of the identity of the country, and how the Irish government has used the popularity, the worldwide popularity of Irish arts and culture to exert influence on the issues that impact the country. After all, as we know, there is no city in the world without a decent Irish pub. Michael Collins will focus more on Joyce and Conor McPherson, two lordly figures in the world of Irish literature. Joyce, you all have heard of, and the play The Dead is reckoned by many to be the best short story ever written, and Michael will take us through that with a deep dive. He will also help us understand Conor McPherson's work, particularly focusing on the play The Weir and how it pulls back the layers and reveals dark and beautiful and funny aspects of Irish life. Christopher will focus on Yeats, who you all have heard about. Yeats, of course, was the first Irish literary figure to get a Nobel Prize. He is, with Seamus Heaney, seen as the two pillars of Irish poetry, and he was instrumental in merging, if you like, the Anglo background with the Irish background and building this work of Anglo-Irish literature. We hope that for those of you for whom Ireland is already a known quantity and who have a knowledge of Ireland, we hope that these lectures will both deepen and broaden your knowledge and your insight. And for those of you for whom this is your first time encountering Ireland, we hope that it will provoke and stimulate your curiosity for further reading and for further study. Thank you again for our invitation. We look forward to March, which, because of St. Patrick's Day slapping right in the middle of it, Ireland owns March. Thank you again. Slán go fóill, and we will see you in March. Take care.
We did it. We finished before noon. Imagine that.
130 people. Thank you.
41 videos. Yeah. Thank you, everybody, for joining. It occurred to me one thought as I was looking at, gee, if I was taking classes, I'd want to take that one in person, but then I want to do that one that's virtual. We are happy to help you figure out how to participate in a virtual class at Mason if you need to be there for an in-person class before or after. And we don't know that until people register, and we can kind of see where there's adjoining classes where one is virtual and one is in person. But there's plenty of space at Mason, and we can reserve space, and we can open up the Zoom for you, or you can bring your own device and connect at Mason.
Maybe one important update on War and Peace. So you may have noticed that in the catalog, it starts March 4th, but it has been updated. It actually starts March 11th. So online, you will see it as March 11th. So do not be confused by the prior reference to March 4th. It is March 11th, War and Peace. Any other questions? Well, I know what I will be doing at 10 a.m. on Monday. I hope everybody else does after spending the last 2 hours. Susan Hager, how does the parking work at the GMU structure?
We have a whole page about parking on our website, so you can check that out. And basically, to use the parking garage at Mason with Metropolis, you need a working mobile phone that can scan QR codes. And the first time you drive in, you'll set up your account. And then forevermore, once you have your information saved, you'll simply drive in and out, and it will remember you and charge your credit card. There's information on our site about the costs. Some people do find it cheaper to find a meter. Just make sure you put enough money in your meter. There's lots of meters nearby between George Mason and over by St. Charles and Northside Social. There's a whole bunch of meters there. There's a few free parking spots on Kirkwood. Those are secret.
It's not a secret anymore.
There's a follow-up question on War and Peace. So War and Peace is March 11th through April 8th.
Yep.
Susan Hickson asked about the Fairlington location. Where and what is that?
Fairlington Community Center is, I don't have the address in front of me. It's South Arlington, just off of 395. It's about 12 minutes from the Mason campus. You can look that up, the information. We have a locations page in the catalog itself and also on our website that has information about that. There's free parking at Fairlington. That's a big advantage. Lots of parking, and some people find it very convenient. Our instructor who teaches that class lives in Alexandria, so it's more convenient for her.
Connie asks how many people are on the Zoom call. Connie, there were about 193 2 hours ago, and now there are 100. Thank you for your comment about how it has been conducted. We really appreciate your feedback. John asks, could you say again when the video will be available for this preview?
The videos will all be available tomorrow morning. I would check sometime after 8 a.m. on our YouTube channel. The link is on our website, so you can get there. But if you go to YouTube and just do a search for Encore Learning, you'll find it. Each video is available as an individual clip. So if you know you just missed a couple, you can go back and see them. But we will also upload the entire 2.5 hours if you want to sit and watch the whole thing again, because it was that good.
Thank you, Patty, for posting the address of the Fairlington Community Center on Stafford Street. I think everybody can read this, but it's 3308 South Stafford Street, Arlington, 22206. Any other questions?
It's a great time to check your membership status. Make sure that your membership is current. If you log in to the registration account on the first page when you log in, it will show your date at the bottom of your contact information.
And Laura, did we mention, I think we did, about being a class aide?
Oh, yes.
You'll be asked when you register if there's a need for class aide for that particular class. You'll be asked if you want to be a class aide. And I totally recommend it as a great experience to get to know the instructor and many of the participants. It's really fun and it's easy. So think about whether you want to join the class aide group when you sign up on Monday.
We are a good group. And if you're new to being a class aide, we're happy to collaborate. So please join us.
And there's lots of training.
There's probably about maybe 10 or so classes that still need class.
Yeah.
Class aide. You'll be prompted with a question that says, would you like to be a class aide? So some people are surprised that they're being asked that, and it's a prompt you have to answer before you can proceed.
I guess that's it.
I don't see anything else. A couple people raised their hand, but we're not able to have you talk. So if you have a question, you do need to put it in the Q&A, or if you want, you can send us an email at info@encorelearning.net. All right. Well, I think we can wrap it up.
Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. And we'll see you virtually or at GMU, hopefully, starting in March.
Well, we actually have a big event on Monday at GMU. Right. Yeah, we're going to screen the Rails to Trails film on Monday, and I'm determined to do it even if the weather is a little iffy. Unless Mason is closed, then we will not hold the event. But planning to be there on Monday, February 2nd, with the film screening of the Rails to Trails film with the author and executive producer, Peter Harnick. The event starts at 2:30 on Monday, and we were expecting about 150 people. So hopefully we'll keep our numbers up in spite of maybe some challenges, but I'm from Minnesota, so it doesn't stop me. All right. Thanks so much. We'll see you then.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Take care.